Hi guys, my name is Brittany Viands and I just recently started coming here back in September. I graduated from EMU last May where I played softball, and this past August I took a job at Cornerstone Christian School where I am now the PE teacher and the athletic director. So on Sunday, Pastor Adrian talked about wounds and heartbrokenness, and I just wanted to share a small story with you guys on how I can relate to the message personally. So when I was 9 years old, my mom had twin sisters named Macy and Carly. And ever since I was a young girl, I wanted to be a sister. I envisioned making them play dress up and painting their nails and talking to their boyfriends one day when they were going to go to prom. And so I got super excited when I found out I was going to be a sister, especially to two little girls. And that ended up not being the case physically. And so when my mom was 27 weeks pregnant, they went in for a routine ultrasound, and they found that baby A, which was Macy, had fluid on her lungs and in her abdomen. So they rushed my mom to Ruby Memorial Hospital, which is in Morgantown, West Virginia. I'm from West Virginia, so that's a world-class hospital there. And so they rushed her there to do some further testing and found out that she needed to have an emergency C-section. And so on July 25th of 2009, she delivered my two twin baby sisters. Macy was 3 pounds, 6 ounces, and Carly was 3 pounds, 3 ounces. So Macy went into Pod A of the NICU where the sicker babies go, and she was instantly intubated and put into a medical-induced coma because she was fighting all of the tubes and the medicines and the doctors. Carly was put in Pod C, which is where the babies that just need a little bit more baking go. And so she was stuck under a heat lamp and given medicine to just help her grow and given nutrients to help her continue to grow like she would be in utero. And so we waited 7 days, and that's when Macy passed away. Her lungs and her abdomen and just all of her major organs started to shut down. She had fluid that was being retained that they couldn't suck off fast enough with the tubes, and so she passed away in my mom's arms on August 1st of 2009. So in between that time of her funeral and my sister Carly's funeral, we stayed at a Ronald McDonald House up there that provides living accommodations for families who have family members at the hospital across the street. There we were provided food and bedding and all of that stuff that you need for living in a different part of the state. And so every day we would go hang out with Carly and just get to see her grow. Carly and I had a little bit of a game, as I called it, where we played hide and seek. And every time I would walk into the room, she would have her eyes open until I looked at her, and then she would close them because she was a little stink and just wanted to make me laugh. So one night we were at the Ronald McDonald House on August 15th, and we got a call at 3 a.m. that Carly's organs had started to shut down, that her lungs were retaining too much fluid, and that her kidneys were shutting down. And so we had to make the call whether or not to continue to have further treatment or for her to go peacefully. And with the rate of the fluid coming on and the not being able to retain it well by it getting off of her lungs, my mom made a decision to allow Carly to go peacefully and to not be in suffering anymore on August 16th of 2009. And for somebody who was about to turn 10 a month later, going into the 4th grade, that is a major life-changing shock. 2 years before that, I had become a Christian, and when you're 9 years old, you still don't have your mind fully wrapped around being a Christian, about God, about the world, about the ugliness that the world can have sometimes, and about the heartbreak that can really just stick it to you, for lack of better words. And so I went back to school and almost failed 4th grade. I wanted nothing to do with God or, religion at all. I had read for the last 2 years about how God makes miracles happen, and I prayed for a month for a miracle, and my life ended up in shambles, or so I thought. And so I stopped going to church. There was an article done in the local paper about my sisters, and I became that girl at school whose sisters passed away and got asked a million questions. My birthday was very different, and I had 0 friends. And so 4th grade, needless to say, was not like a typical 4th grade year. And so through the the next couple of years, I really struggled with my identity, with my relationship with God, with my family, and just who I was and what life was about. I got given the gift of softball that later spring, and that's where I started to make friends. And 2 years later, I started going back to church and went to VBS and really got to dive into my relationship with God. And it was a long process of grief. There's not a book written on the stages of grief and how often you feel them and how big you will feel those emotions. I still miss my sisters to this day, but God blessed us 3 years after and gave me my brother as a surprise, who is healthy, an amazing 11-year-old who bugs me and just makes me feel God in very big ways. And so it could be so easy to sit here and still feel brokenhearted and wounded by God because he didn't make a magical miracle happen in my life. But when I look at my brother, I see that as a miracle in itself. And I know that if my sisters were here, they would endure so much suffering that I wouldn't be able to withstand watching. And so I know that they're up in heaven celebrating with God and really supportive of their big sister here on earth and their little brother. And I feel them and experience them in so many ways. And so God has given back so much. And I am relieved and assured of the promise that I get to see them one day in healthy, strong bodies, and just love that feeling of knowing that they're protected by the one who can make all feel right. And so if you have experienced loss or brokenheartedness in that way, I just want to first say I'm so sorry that you've had to endure a feeling of what I felt. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but I do pray that you can experience God in big ways and find the joy in the midst of sorrow. It took me a long time to find that, but when I finally found it and was allowed to have peace that passes all of my earthly understanding, I was able to experience my sisters in new ways and spiritual ways and experience God in big ways. And I know that even though I don't get to hold them physically, I can still hold them in my heart, and that God gets to hold them in his arms, and that's the best place that they can be. And so lean in to God during this time, even if it's been so many years since a loss has happened, or if it's super fresh, and allow yourself to walk through the grieving process, because that's what it is. It's a process. And just know that even if you do walk away for a day or a month from God, that he's still there holding your grief, and he mourns with you. And when you're ready to go back, he's there with open arms, ready to just help you walk through the process. So thank you for listening and sharing my story and holding it with a sacred place.